In your house, when your water pump fails, you can't have a shower. When your impeller and your water pump fails in your boat, it can be way worse than that. Stick around to find out more. Hi, I'm Sean. I'm from Cove Lessons in Boating. One of the most common failures that we see in the marine industry is what's called an impeller failure. An impeller is the internal component to a water pump, which pumps raw water, lake or sea, from that body of water up into the engine or heat exchanger to cool off your engine and then go back out through the hull or the exhaust. An impeller is much like brakes or a tire on your car, and that is that it wears out over time and it should be replaced every once in a while. And we've seen 13, 15-year-old tires on cars and trailers, and we've seen brakes that really should have been replaced long ago. And the same goes for impellers. There's impellers that haven't been changed for 20 years and are still operating, but you're really risking it when that happens. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what an impeller is, where it's located and what it does. We're going to talk about what your proper replacement interval should be and why you would do it. And we're going to talk about the catastrophic things that can happen if you don't replace your impeller in good time. And stick around to the end of this video for a tip if you're buying a used boat, how using this knowledge can help you negotiate a better deal. If you like today's video, make sure you throttle that like button, subscribe to get on board for more of these type of videos. An impeller is a rubber or nitrile based fan-shaped object that pumps water by rotating by your engine at a speed equal to the RPM in your engine, that runs in a concentric housing in order to suck lake or seawater up and in and push it to the engine to be circulated for cooling. And because it sits in a concentric housing, it's squeezed in there, and as it rotates, the vanes open up in order to draw water in and then close to push it, and that happens over and over again. Also, because we use our boats very little and they sit for long periods of time, the impeller can what's called take a shape, and the impeller becomes the shape of the housing when it's sat there a long time, and it loses its ability to flex and pump water. The impeller you'll find in one of two usual locations. One, in an outboard engine or stern drive in the drive itself, just above the lower unit in relationship to the cavitation plate, and it drives from the shaft that comes down from the engine input and pushes water. It sucks a very short distance from the intake and then pushes it up to the engine, either directly through the engine or to a circulating pump that's on the engine. The other location you'll find an impeller is on what's called a seawater pump. And a seawater pump is a remotely mounted pump that's on the front of an engine, and so it has to draw water a longer distance from the lower unit intake or from the hull intake up to that seawater pump and then distribute it to the engine through the circulating pump. Why you're going to want to change your impeller is that it is vital to keeping your engine cool. And just like brakes on your car and tires on your car, it's also vital to the safety and keeping your engine running properly. And they do wear out over time. So that's why you're going to change it. Let's talk about the catastrophic things that can happen. When an impeller stops pumping water properly, the good case scenario is that you notice that your engine starts to operate slightly above its normal operating range because you pay attention to your gauges, and you realize something's wrong, and you go to your dealership, you tell them that, they find that the impeller is a little bit worn and they replace it, and on you go. And that can happen a lot of the time. Other times we replace it before that happens, just at a routine interval, say every 3 or 5 years, just to make sure you have a good impeller there at all times. The other times that can happen are when more dramatic things happen. When you see the water temperature in the engine spike way beyond maximum range, or your engine quits because of that occurrence of it overheating, or you see steam or what looks like smoke coming out of your engine because it's overheating. Or your engine can actually seize solid if it gets too hot and the metals inside grind to a halt because they've expanded too much. So you can go from having just an impeller job to do, which can be very inexpensive and routine maintenance, to go to the absolute extreme of having damaged exhaust manifolds, damaged cylinder heads or head gaskets, or even complete engine failure where one or more of the pistons in the cylinders scores the engine to the point where it needs a complete rebuild. So very quickly you can go from not a big deal to losing a weekend or entire weeks on the water and costing you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. As you can see, an impeller is actually a very small thing that has a very large job. And our recommendation here at Lens Cove is that you replace your water pump impeller every 3 to 5 years without fail. It wouldn't matter if the engine's running and cooling fine, you would replace it just on spec because you know eventually it's going to fail. And let's be honest, boating is fun and you want to be out on the water. You don't want your boat in the shop. So do it ideally in the off season when you're not using your boat so that it doesn't interrupt your boating at all. Here's the tip when you're buying a used boat. Unless the dealership or the private seller in their demonstration to you tells you that they've replaced the impeller recently and can provide documentation, or say they are going to do it, keep the impeller knowledge in the back of your mind until everything is almost said and done and you've gotten a price locked in, you've decided you're going to buy the boat. Throw in the wild card right at the end and say, by the way, when was the last time the impeller was changed on the engine? Perhaps they have that information and it's been within the last couple of years and you can not worry about it. If they don't know, or they say it's been after 3 years, say, we've got a deal as long as you replace the impeller. Thanks for joining us on today's Lens Cove Lessons in Boating. Make sure you subscribe to get on board for more of these type of videos. If you like today's video, make sure you throttle that like button, get out on the water, have fun, and stay safe.